everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the transracial adoption. As we know, transracial adoption is a family adopted child with different race. Nowadays, adoption is very general. People who want to have kids and raise them will decide to adopt. But transracial adoption is different. It will give a family and a kid very special life. It's hard to think about how the family makes this decision and how a kid lives in a family with different race. Today I interviewed two persons who all have the adoptive experience. The first one is Pam. She is my accounting professor and shared her adoptive experience in class before. She adopted 3 black girls, but she and her husband already own 2 sons, which means it is originally a white American family. I'm wondering how they decide to adopt 3 black girls and how those girls adopt their family and how they think about transracial adoption. Let's go to know Pam's adoptive experience.
I am Pam Boffman. I am 50 years old and I have 5 kids. So I have a picture of my family. This is me on a good hair day. This is my husband. He is 47. We both went to high school together. Both grew up in northern Wisconsin. This is my oldest son. He is going to be a junior here at UW-Eau Claire. This is my other, he's 21. He's 18. This is Hayden. He also is going to be starting college this fall. And so then I have 3 adopted daughters also. I have Destiny is my youngest. I adopted her at birth. She was my first child I adopted. And then Lanice and Deidre, they were adopted when they were 4 and 6 years old from Florida. So Destiny was born in Oklahoma, and Lanice and Deidre are from Florida, Broward County, Florida. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, so as I know, you already own 2 sons before you adopt your 3 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So why and how did you and your husband decide to adopt a child?
Okay, good question. I was older when I had my first child. I was already 30. And so then I had my first child when I was 30, and then my second when I was 32. So usually around 35, you have more likely to have some birth defects and problems. And so my husband and I, we had to spend money on infertility treatment, even with our boys. So we came to the point where we said, do we want to spend more money on infertility treatment? And I really wanted a daughter, so we might do that, and then I might get a son. I love my sons, but I wanted a daughter. Or do we take that money and go and help somebody else out? So a lot of signs and everything pointed us towards adoption. We first started trying to adopt out of foster care because we wanted to help somebody. In Wisconsin, it is not easy to adopt out of foster care. It's very difficult. So then I found out there was a need for minority infant adoptions in the United States. And so I signed up with them, and 6 weeks later I was matched with a birth mom who, I was 34 at the time, she was 35. She already had 5 kids. So, so we went, and 1 week later I was down there watching my daughter being born. So it was kind of, we just talked and talked. We want to try again on our own. And going through infertility treatments is heartbreaking because you want to get pregnant really bad. Mm-hmm. And every time you don't, it breaks your heart. So that was, I wanted a big family. And so we just didn't want to deal with that. So we thought adoption would be good for us.
Okay. So that's your first daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why did you adopt another 2? Yeah, because you already have 1 daughter.
Okay, great question. No, that's a great question. Yeah. So when like you could see from the picture, my husband and I and our sons are all Caucasian. Mm-hmm. So Destiny, the one we adopted from Oklahoma, nicest kid ever. Just a sweetheart. She's so sweet. Just such a good kid. One day we were at a baseball game, and there was a park right next to the baseball game, and she was 3. And there was this African-American family. It was a husband and wife and 2 daughters were over there. And so she was over there playing with them. I was watching them, and she was over there playing. And when the game was over, I went up, talked to the dad, and Destiny was crying. And I was like, did she get hurt? And he's like, no, I don't know what's going on. And so I picked her up and I took her to the car. And I'll never forget this. I put her in her car seat. Tears are coming down. And I put her in her car seat and I got her all locked up. And I'm like, Desi, what's wrong? And she says, Mama, I don't look like you. Yeah, I know. And so, I mean, like I said, this kid is in my heart so much. And to see that, and I think that was probably her first time like playing with African American kids. And so that night I told my husband, I said, well, we're adopting. And he said, no, we're not. 3's enough. And I won. So we did. And this time we paid money to adopt Destiny, and we didn't really have another large amount of money to adopt an infant again. So we knew we had to go to foster care, out of foster care. So we did there's some national websites. It's called adoptuskids.com.
Okay.
And that's where we found Lanice and Deidre.
Okay. So you adopt the other two together?
Yeah, they're siblings. They're biological siblings.
Oh, okay. As I know, for your first daughter, you met her mother, her birth mother. Do you know why did she just give up raising her daughter?
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yep. So her name is Kim, and Kim, honest to God, is probably, I said Destiny's really sweet. Her birth mom is even more sweet. She's so nice. So she's a very nice one. Like I said, she's 35. She worked at the hospital that she gave birth at, because I was there when Destiny was born. And everybody just loved her. I can tell everybody loved her because the staff, they were there. She actually got a raise while she was in labor. Her boss came in and gave her a raise. And so I know what she made at the time. In 2004, she got a 50-cent an hour raise. She went from $10 an hour to $10.50. And that was her only job, and she had 5 kids at home. So her oldest kid was 17, and then she had a 7-year-old. So her kids were 7, 8, and 9, and then 15 and 17. And for her to start all over again, it was just too hard. In the biological father, he told her to either have an abortion or he was going to leave. And so she really liked him. She really cared about him. So she was hoping that wasn't true. But when she went to have an abortion, he left. So then she was left on her own and didn't know what to do. She actually she hid her pregnancy. And the only 2 of her 5 kids knew she was pregnant. The little ones didn't know. She told them that she was going away for the weekend. And that's how she delivered. So why'd she do it? She did it for her other kids, really, and for Destiny. If you think about it, she had 5 kids with 3 different biological fathers already. So Destiny is the fourth one. And that's hard. That's hard. So she knew that Destiny's biological dad wasn't going to be involved, and the only way to really get Desi a dad, a real dad role, is to make an adoption plan. And she said she prayed really hard. And it was weird because the time when she was praying and asking, for guidance, I was in church praying and asking for a daughter. So I don't know. I don't know if you believe in that, but yeah, we both, she said she spent 2 days in church and just sat there and said, God, what do I do? And he told her, whatever, she went and made an adoption plan after that. So that's why she did it.
Okay.
Do you want to know about the other 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so the other 2, their mom was, she left school when she was 16, so she was the high school dropout. She had Deidre, and when Deidre, thought she was going to marry Deidre's biological dad, baby daddy, whatever, and then what happened is her mom died at the age of 50. This is what her records say. And then she kind of didn't handle it well. And so then she was pregnant with Lanice, the second one, and she just started doing drugs heavily. And so Deidre and Lanice were very neglected. And and the mom was there was like neighbors and stuff would report them because the kids would run around and they were not eating and they were dirty and they were living in hotel rooms. And the first time the social worker went out there, my Lenice, the one who was younger, she was a year and a half, and she already knew how to change her own diaper because she had to, because her mom didn't do that for her. So then the girls got hurt one time when the mom was high, and so they were removed, and they were not in foster care, but they were placed with a family member that abused them very badly. And it's so bad that right now my daughters are 14 and 16, and the 14-year-old is starting to have flashbacks and trauma seizures or whatever, trauma attacks. I don't know what you call them. But yeah, it was bad. They had a rough life. And so we got them when they were 4 and 6.
So, I've got to ask you a question before. Why did you and your husband to adopt like 3 girls with different race?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't real particular on race. We just wanted to help somebody. In the foster care system, at one time we had a sibling group of 3 white kids. We had a black girl from Milwaukee. She was nice, but she did not like my sons. And, we couldn't adopt somebody that didn't like my sons. And we just wanted to help a child in need.
Okay.
And that's why when they approached me about adopting a minority, a black baby, a newborn, I was like, I don't want to do that, because I didn't want to take that away from a infertile couple, because I have had 2 kids. But they said no. They said, you might be the parent, you might be the mom that makes that birth mom feel at peace with her decision. So that's why we did. I didn't want to be greedy, because like I said, Destiny, I couldn't have made a kid as good as Desi. I mean, she's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you know how did those parents think about their children, their daughters will enter join a white family?
Okay, so when I was at the hospital, when Desi was born, she's born on a Friday. And they told me, you can't leave the hospital until the birth mom leaves. So I was at the hospital the whole weekend, and Kim was supposed to get released Saturday, but what happened was some of her coworkers who were also black came in her room and really gave her a hard time about placing her daughter up for adoption with a white family. So they were really pressuring her to keep her daughter, keep her in the black community and everything. And it wasn't right to let her go to a white family. It was weird. And well, then it was so hard on her that the doctor gave her another day in the hospital. So, she wanted a mom and dad for her daughter, and she really liked me, and I don't think she cared about color. She wanted her daughter to have opportunities that her other 5 kids, her other 5 kids are beautiful, but I think her desire for her daughter to be in a better place, she didn't care about color.
Okay. Got it. And after your 3 daughters join your family, I know your sons. Do you think they have any idea, different thinking for those 3 black sisters?
Yeah, I don't think we're pretty open about the race differences. We're very open about it. But my husband, I had to talk him into the first adoption too. He was just afraid. And he had a fear that he wouldn't love an adopted child like he loved his own. Nothing to do with color or race. But he was very concerned that he was going to treat them differently. And I'll never forget, so I went down first with Destiny. I was there for a week, and then he flew down and we met him at the airport. And I put Desi in his arms. And he's like, oh, I'm not worried. I said, what do you mean? He goes, no, it's love at first sight. He goes, I love her. You know, it was just like that, you know. And the boys were like that too. They didn't look at her as a different race. It was like you're so overwhelmed with love, it didn't matter. Then race became apparent that day in the park, you know, like, oh crap, I don't want her, but she's very light skinned or whatever, but I don't want her to think she's white, you know what I mean? It's important for me to, you are who you are, and your skin is beautiful. And but with the other two, because they came from a very urban culture area, so they came up here, they were quite, you know, they were under 4 and 6. And they were quite a bit different. They came from a rough background. But as far as looking at them differently, you know, they have beautiful skin. My daughters are beautiful. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, you know, they're incredible athletes. You know, we try to focus on the good things. Like sometimes my daughters don't like their hair, you know, because ethnic hair is a hard texture, and I have to pay a lot of money to get it done. And I don't like them to complain. I'm like, don't sit there and wish you have different hair. There's so many good things you have about you for who you are. Don't be envious of other people's hair or whatever. So
that's how you help them to like identify their race. It's like how did you help them to identify their race?
Oh yeah, we try to. I have a friend who adopted an African American daughter, and then she totally acts like a little white girl, and that's not what I wanted. I know that sounds bad, so I do try to introduce them to a lot of Black culture. They have a whole series of book on Black history and everything like that. We listen to, people laugh at my Pandora. I don't know if you ever looked at it, but my top 3 stations are, I listen to classical when I'm alone in here. I listen to that Justin Bieber. Oh no, it's not. It's Justin Timberlake with you guys. And when I'm with my girls, I listen to hip hop.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I'm 50, but I'm an older mom, but I want them to enjoy, you know, what they would enjoy. But then there's a problem with that, and it leads to one of your other questions you had later. There's a problem. I don't like the way some of the rap music and everything talks about women and everything, and we laugh about it, and some of the songs are really naughty and we laugh about it, but I like them to find Black role models. We were huge fans of Gabby Douglas, the gymnast, so I've always been looking out for Black role models, but I really want my daughters to focus on what's inside them. So that's how I do it. I don't treat them, I don't pretend they're like me. I accept they're different, and I want them, you know, one time a kid in my daughter's class made fun of her hair. And I said, you know what you say to him? Say, let's go on a race, because I'll beat you in a running race every time. I said, you know what I mean? There's so many things you do better. Who cares? You're African American, but you're a better athlete than he is, so who cares about your hair? So I always try to make them be strong, and my goal is to get them to be strong women.
Okay. So when you raise them, do you think what's the most difficult thing about race when you raise them?
I don't know. Right now, my daughters they like talking to other African American kids. It's, you know, teenagers and stuff like that. And I understand that. So I really want to help them find other kids to reach out to. And where we live up in northern Wisconsin, it's not easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, I know that my daughters are very, well, I try to teach my kids. The thing that bothers me is I had a nephew who said, oh, I only date white girls. I don't want my kids to ever say, I only date black boys or I only date white boys. I don't want them to say that. I want them to look at a person as a person. And I like, so my 21-year-old son, he doesn't care. He's attracted to all, women. And then I feel like I've done the right thing because I want you to be open and everything. But yeah, I mean, you put some hip hop music on and my girls will go crazy. They all know all the silly dances and they do it much better than their friends. We laugh. I mean, we joke about it. Maybe that's how we deal with it. We accept the differences. Their friends know that when they go out and dance in a circle, my girls are going to be the best dancers. And they are, Maybe they practice it too much. Maybe that's how they relate to it. Maybe that's how they show the world that, hey, I am still different. And I embrace that and I encourage it. I don't want them to pretend they're something they're not. They are who they are.
Got it. So, as we know, even if the transracial adoption is general now, for now, there still have many racist. They think that the transracial adoption is not ethical, even it will make the white family not pure.
Oh.
Yeah. So what do you want to see to these kind of voices?
Well, I honestly, the only resistance I've ever had were from black people not liking it that we have. Before we adopted. My dad and my husband's dad, who are 75 now, they both are, they were worried like that. Like, oh, you can't, mix, it's going to be bad. But now, like I said, everything's different. Maybe destiny really opened their eyes. They don't look at it that way at all anymore. They've welcomed her with open arms. And we did the other daughters also. Like I said, the only resistance I've ever seen is there are some black people that get mad because we have black daughters or black children. And I don't understand that. Like I said, in the hospital, they really gave the birth mom a hard time, but to the point where she kind of had a little bit of a nervous breakdown because it was a hard decision anyway. And here you have people yelling at her saying that black children need to be with black parents. And actually when Deidre and Lanice were posted on adoptuskids.com, I feel so stupid saying that, they were posted for 1 week and they had 146 families applied to adopt them, if you can believe that. 146 families applied in 1 week to adopt them. That's how many there are. Don't listen to people that say that there aren't a lot of people that want to adopt. A ton of people want to adopt. And it came down to two finalists, our family and then a black couple. And they picked us. So again, I think I don't think it's about color as much as it's what you're going to give the people. I haven't seen it. The only ones I've seen it from is the black people get upset and they say, because I don't know how to do hair and I don't know how to do their skin. But you know what? I research it. I reach out to people. I have made connections with people that do know how to do their hair, because I don't know if I had a Caucasian daughter, I wouldn't know how to do their hair. I don't do hair. When I was a tomboy. When my boys are little, I shave their heads. I don't do hair. So if you're gonna judge me because I don't do hair, well, I would have failed as a Caucasian mom also. So, but yeah, that's the resistance I've seen. Not from other families and everybody else. My daughters are super popular.
Yeah. Okay. So, the last question, do you have any suggestions for those families who like to adopt children with different race? What to consider before the adopting?
Oh, I think for people that are looking to adopt, I don't think race matters. I think it's all about how much, like I said, my love for Destiny was overwhelming. I didn't care what race she was at all. It helps you, it just helps open your mind and your heart. But advice, I know that everybody thinks that adopting in our country is hard. You know, that's why a lot of people go international. But I would just invite them to look into minority infant adoptions like we did, because there is a need for that. And but you're talking about racism. I have one more racist thing. I know I talk too much. I have one more racist thing to tell you. When we adopted Destiny, I had to write out the check and give it to the adoption worker, and I wrote out the check for $14,000. That's how much it was. And I said, boy, I told the adoption worker, that's a big check. And she goes, well, if Destiny was white, it would have been $35,000 or $40,000. That she said that to me, and I got so mad. And I said, you know what? I will put my little Destiny up against those white little babies anytime. But that is the lawyers making money, which is sad. You know what I mean? Because it's a supply and demand. You're a business major, you understand that. A lot of people, unfortunately, think they have to adopt people that look like them, and that's sad. So then they're out there, and it's like only the rich white people can afford that much. You know what I mean? But there is a need for minority adoptions. It's cheaper. Is it right? No way. I said my daughter used to be a gymnast, and I laughed because she was one of the best gymnasts in the area, and all those rich little white kids, you know what I mean? She's kicking their butt. I know that sounded really racist the opposite way, but no, that made me very mad when she said that it's a lot cheaper to adopt a black baby than a white baby. So that's one avenue. But again, I haven't had people look down, and kids are fine. I haven't. We went through a nonprofit, a woman who did it out of Michigan, and I think it's scary. Like, my birth mom could have changed her mind. That's scary, because like you said, you bond to the child immediately. So a lot of people are really nervous about that, but most states are very adoption friendly. That there's a lot more protection for the adoptive parents than you would think, because a lot of people have seen the movies where the 5-year-old kid comes and gets ripped out of your home, but a lot of states' laws are not going to let that happen again. So
Pam is so nice to share her life. We can see her family is so happy now. They don't really care about the racial issues. I think I'm so lucky to meet this kind of person. I'm also wondering how the adoptive kids think about their transracial family. So the other person is my friend Emily. She and her sister were adopted from China, and her adoptive parents are white Americans as well. We know each other in a club activity. She was so active and positive, and never avoided to share her adoptive life. Because she lives in Minnesota, we don't have a chance to meet together. Therefore, she recorded a video to talk about her life. Let's see how it is.
Hello, my name is Emily. I am a Chinese adoptee. I was adopted when I was 9 months old as a baby, so I have zero recollection of what my birth parents even look like, because I was so young that I don't remember any of it. And so here's a picture of my family right now. So there's me, there's my dad, and then here's my sister. And my sister is also adopted from China, but we are not blood related. She's from a different province than I am. And then here's my mom. Okay, so basically, they wanted to adopt children, or adopted me and my sister, because they really wanted to raise a kid. And I remember at the time that they couldn't have a kid because like some health issues, I believe. And so anyways, they first adopted my sister, and then later on they adopted me because my mom wanted another child, and she didn't want my sister to be an only child. So anyways, I don't know how they adopted me. All I know is that they filled out government forms, and then they traveled to China, and they traveled to this main city called Guangzhou, and that's where a lot of adoptee parents pick up their babies from. From what I remember, my mom told me it was her and like this other group in Minnesota they all traveled together and they stayed at this hotel in Guangzhou. And I remember a few days later, these social workers brought all these babies and they just gave a baby to my parents. They didn't select the kid of what they want. They just said like, oh, well, the only thing that they said to the selection process, I believe, was like whether or not they wanted a male or female. So they didn't care where the baby was from. They just wanted that gender. And so, anyways, a few years later, when I was 15 years old, I have traveled back to China a few times after that, and I visited my orphanage, and I met the woman who found me, meaning the woman who brought me into the orphanage, and she had told me the entire story of how she found me and where. And basically what happened was I think I was like 3 months old. I was a very young infant at the time, and I was crying outside in front of this government building she worked in. And when she found me, I was in a basket. There was a blanket that covered me, and there was like powdered milk and a golden sealed envelope that she never opened. So then she said, as she turned me in, she knew that I was really sick at the time because she said I kept coughing and I looked really sick. I looked really sick at the time. And also, when my mom adopted me, she told me that I had really bad asthma, and later on, a few years later, I grew out of it, so I don't have it anymore. But the people at the orphanage and my mom and the woman who found me were telling me that. So my mom and the people who found me and the people at the orphanage were telling me maybe my parents have given me up because since they assumed that I was born in a rural area, maybe they couldn't afford me to get better. So all they could do was just to give me up and just to live a better life, maybe. And so I'm okay with it. I still appreciate my birth parents no matter what, and they still have a place in my heart no matter what, because just from reading the red note that my birth mom had written to me, I just felt very touching and just know that they are with me. Okay. So as growing up, I have lived in a white neighborhood for my entire life mostly, and I just knew when I was a kid, like a first grader, that I looked different from my family, and my sister and I were the same race. We knew that we were Chinese, but we didn't really understand that we were different, or even though we have a similar personality or we are very westernized, we just looked different. So we didn't really know how to distinguish our identities because we were so young. But I think as we gotten older, around maybe middle school, we kind of realized that we had like different experiences or different encounters that maybe my adopted parents wouldn't understand of what I've gone through, versus if they experienced the same thing, maybe the situation would have been different or not so. And my parents, I think they try to help me with my identity, and same with my sister. I remember every year when I was a kid, we had these adoption groups, get-togethers, like these socials, where basically all these, or like there are 10 Chinese adoptees in the Minneapolis area, and monthly we all get together and we just all hang out. We don't really talk about culture or like language relating to the Chinese or not, it's just more of a social and just to hang out and just maybe to feel more comfortable in our own skin. And so I remember with those socials, I thought they were pretty fun. I didn't really understand what was happening, but for me as a kid, it was just meeting new people. So as of now, we're like lifelong friends, so it's okay. And basically, um, I don't think my parents have told me like the difference between like our race and stuff. I think my mom just like told me that I was adopted and I just accepted it. I didn't really know what was happening because she told me when I was so little and I didn't really question what adoption was or anything like that. And I remember when I was a kid, I didn't really think about my birth parents until I reached high school. And that was the time when I visited back to China. Yeah. You are still part of their family no matter what because they still love you and they care for you and like they respect you as your daughter or son. And I just know that my family here and probably my family in China still thinks about me, cares about me, and loves me no matter what, even though if I look different or similar to them. We're still family. And I think transracial adoption doesn't, I think it occurs a lot where I am actually because we have a bunch of Korean adoptees, surprisingly. And I remember when I was talking to them, they don't really think about their own birth parents or maybe their culture or background or history. And they're all Americanized like I am. So I remember for me when I visit back to China, I really want to learn more about the Chinese culture. So now I'm learning the language and I have traveled back a few times just to volunteer and to visit back my orphanage. Um, hmm, I feel like transracial adoption, like, some people think it's not pure. I think no matter what, like, I think transracial adoption, it's the family's choice whether or not they want to adopt kids because they want to start a family and they want to, like, make someone's life better. And I know that my parents did that for me, and I know that even though my birth parents have given me up, and even though they love me unconditionally, they wanted everything for the best in me, and so this is what they did. And I think people, like, if people think, like, adoption isn't ethical, I think it is sometimes because not everyone can have a kid and people want to save others' lives and they want other people to feel happier. And I think a lot of people need to understand that if people think it's unethical, then how would they feel if they were adopted and being raised in a different country, like whether if you're a baby or a adult, not adult, or a or a 6-year-old, like a kid, because it's very different and it's a different experience. And they're just trying to do their best and being a good parent and just to show them like another aspect of their lives. And for foster transracial, I think a difficult thing about living in an American family is probably race, because we look different, but we are both like one whole family together. And I also think that the adoptees have different experiences than what maybe their adopted parents would have. So like an example could be like, I've been excluded to play these games in middle school because I looked different and my parents would tend to say like, oh, um, I don't think it was because of your race, but I think it was because you are like better than they are, so that's why they don't want you on the team or something like that. But I remember when I was a kid, I always assumed it was because I looked different. And like for American families, I remember there's a bunch of my friends have like their families usually go to baseball games and all that stuff, and whereas my family, we're not like that. We're not really into the sports and stuff, so it was kind of different. Like I see all my friends' parents, like they used to like draw portraits with each other and stuff, and I remember I did that with my parents, like even though like our portrait, like there was an Asian and a white, and then my friends, all of their family are white and stuff like that. Like this is, we have different families, but we still love each other no matter what. And then for suggestions for foster racial, I think it's really difficult for them. I have never experienced this, but I would say it's really difficult for their identity because they're trying to conform with their foster parents' habits and norms. So I definitely give credit to them. And I just think overall, like, being raised and just being adopted, like, I think a lot of people need to appreciate and need to just express it, because I remember when I was a kid, I didn't really care about adoption. And then after just going back to China years ago and just understanding where I came from and how did everything happen, like it's part of your life story. Like it's very original, and not many people could say that. And like even though a lot of people, maybe people would say like, oh, don't you miss your birth parents? Like of course I do, but maybe not many people think about it. And I think no matter what, people just need to appreciate of just their background and just where their understandings are from. So I think just being adopted is just amazing, because you have like you have a family in that country, and then you have a family in the country where you are now. And I just think it's really beautiful, because no matter what, everyone loves you. Like you still have a family. A lot of people care about you. A lot of people like don't want to give up their children, just because I think back in the days when there was a one-child policy, I'm sure they really wanted their child. Like they still love them so much that they sometimes maybe they couldn't afford it or just couldn't take care of you anymore. And there are a lot of reasons why, and I understand, and I'm not upset with them. I forgive them, and someday I really want to meet my parents if I could, but that's like another adventure. So anyways, I'm Emily, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Emily. We can see in these two families, their family atmosphere are very open. The parents don't really care about the race of the kid. They just want to raise children. They didn't try to make the kid to think about the family and kids are totally same. Inversely, they try to make them identify their race and know their personalities. This kind of family also make kids have very open mind. At least they're not confused about race. Transracial adoption is a very brave choice. I think that's so cool. And I hope there's no any biases for transracial adoption. And I hope every kid, every family can have a happy life. Thank you for watching.